Motivation dies fast, not because you're lazy, not because you're broken, and definitely not because you lack some magical secret ingredient, but because motivation was never designed to survive real life. It's like a fireworks show. It looks incredible for 10 minutes, everyone claps, and then it's just smoke in the air, and you're standing there thinking, wait, that's it. And that's exactly what happens when you feel inspired at 11 p.m. watching a productivity video, swearing you'll change your life tomorrow. And then tomorrow arrives with bills, stress, tiredness, and suddenly motivation is nowhere to be found. Have you noticed how motivation always appears at the most unrealistic moments, like when you're lying in bed, comfortable, full of dreams, imagining the perfect version of yourself, and you think, tomorrow I'll wake up at 6, I'll run, I'll eat clean, I'll read books, I'll become a new person. But then your alarm rings and you suddenly become a philosopher asking deep questions like, what even is the point of waking up early? Seriously, does this happen to you? Comment, yes, if mornings have destroyed more motivation than anything else. Motivation is basically a mood wearing a superhero cape, and moods are unreliable. One day you feel unstoppable, the next day you feel like a tired potato with anxiety, and the funny part is that people build their entire life plans on moods. Like saying, I'll work out when I feel motivated, which is like saying, I'll brush my teeth only when I feel inspired. It makes no sense, but we all do it with big goals, so tell me honestly. What's the one goal you keep restarting like it's a Netflix series you never finish? Before we go any further, hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment right now. What habit are you tired of losing after 2 weeks? Because if this video hits you, you're not alone, and the comment section becomes proof that motivation isn't the problem, the system is. Motivation loves beginnings because beginnings feel clean. Monday feels clean. January feels clean. A new notebook feels clean. You feel like the main character starting a new chapter. But motivation hates the middle, because the middle is boring, messy, repetitive, and real life doesn't give you cinematic music while you struggle. The middle is where you show up on Wednesday with no excitement, no applause, and that's where motivation quietly dies. Think about the gym. Day when you feel like a warrior, you take selfies, you buy protein, you walk around like you've already transformed, and then day 4 arrives and your legs hurt, stairs feel like torture, and suddenly the motivational warrior becomes a lawyer negotiating. Maybe I need more rest, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, and that's the moment most people disappear. So I want to ask, have you ever quit something not because you wanted to, but because it stopped feeling exciting? Motivation dies because life interrupts you like an annoying pop-up ad. You can have the best intentions in the world, but then your boss calls, your kid needs something, your phone buzzes, you're tired, you're stressed, and motivation doesn't know how to handle stress. Motivation is fragile, discipline is stable, and most people confuse the two. Real life example. You plan to eat healthy, you buy chicken and rice, you feel proud, and then Friday night comes, you're exhausted. You open the fridge, and suddenly pizza looks like a warm hug from the universe. And then you feel guilty, you call yourself lazy, but you're not lazy, you're human, and motivation was never strong enough to fight exhaustion. Kid math example number 1. If you wake up with 10 energy points, and scrolling TikTok steals 5, stress steals 3, random problems steal 1, how much is left for discipline? Exactly, 1 sad point, and you're trying to build a new life with 1% battery. Of course you quit. That's not laziness, that's terrible budgeting of attention. Motivation also dies because progress is invisible. You eat clean for 3 days and look in the mirror like, hello? Where is my superhero body? You study for a week and think, why am I not a genius yet? You meditate twice and think, why am I not a monk? Motivation expects instant reward. But reality is slow, so motivation leaves like an impatient child bored after 2 minutes. Let me ask you, do you quit faster when results don't show, or when life gets stressful? Which one kills your motivation more? Write it in the comments, because this is the exact pattern that keeps people stuck for years. Motivation dies because we negotiate with ourselves. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, you create a little loophole. And the funny part is that humans can collect tomorrows like collectibles. Some people have 400 tomorrows sitting in their brain like unpaid bills. So tell me honestly, how many times have you told yourself, next week, and meant it? Motivation dies fast because it depends on feeling good first. And life almost never lets you feel good consistently. You think you need motivation to start, but the truth is you need action to create motivation. And most people get that backwards. They wait for the magical feeling to arrive, like motivation is a delivery service. But motivation doesn't deliver, discipline does. Have you ever noticed that you're never too lazy to scroll, never too lazy to watch Netflix, never too lazy to check messages, but suddenly, lazy, when it comes to the gym, studying, building a business, or doing something meaningful? That's because your brain isn't lazy, it's just addicted to easy dopamine. So comment this. What's the easiest distraction you always fall into first? Motivation dies because your brain is built for comfort, not for growth. Comfort is immediate, growth is delayed. Comfort says, sit down, relax, eat something. Growth says, work now, benefit later. And the brain always prefers now over later unless you train it otherwise. Let's be real. Motivation is like a friend who shows up only when things are fun. It's there at the start, it's there when you feel inspired. But the moment things get hard, motivation disappears without even saying goodbye. And suddenly it's just you and the work, and that's where most people collapse. Kid math example number 2. If it takes 30 days to build a habit, but you quit on day 5 every single time, how many habits do you actually build after a year of starting over? 0. Because resetting destroys progress, and most people spend years pressing the reset button and wondering why nothing changes. Motivation dies because people treat goals like hobbies. Hobbies are optional. Hobbies disappear when life gets busy, but a commitment stays even when you don't feel like it. So ask yourself, do you treat your goals like a hobby or like a non-negotiable identity? Comment, hobby, or identity. Real example. You promise yourself you'll read every day. You buy the book. You feel smart. You read 3 pages. Then your phone buzzes. Then a video plays. Then suddenly it's midnight. And the book becomes furniture. Not because you hate reading, but because distraction always wins against motivation. Motivation dies because we make too many decisions. Should I work out now or later? Should I eat healthy today or tomorrow? Should I do cardio or weights? Every decision drains mental energy, and by the time you finally decide, you're already tired. So discipline is really about removing decisions, not creating willpower. Have you ever spent more time planning productivity than actually being productive? Like making lists, watching motivational videos, buying planners, but doing nothing? That's motivation addiction. The brain loves the feeling of preparation because it feels like progress without pain. Tell me in the comments if you've done that. Motivation dies because the world is overstimulating, notifications, ads, short videos, constant noise. Your brain never rests, so focus feels painful, and motivation can't survive a brain that's exhausted before the day even starts. Kid math example number 3. If distraction interrupts you 20 times a day, and it takes 15 minutes to regain deep focus each time, how much focus do you lose? Hours. Your entire life becomes recovery from interruptions, so of course motivation disappears. Motivation dies because people think consistency should feel exciting, but consistency is boring, repetitive, quiet, almost robotic, and that's why it works. So my question is, are you willing to be boring long enough to become unstoppable? Answer honestly in the comments. Motivation dies fast because the moment you rely on it, you give your power away. You start believing you can only act when you feel like acting, but feelings are unreliable, and if your life depends on feelings, your results will always be random, like gambling with your future. Motivation is a spark, not an engine. Sparks are great for starting, but engines are what keep you moving, and most people build their entire life on sparks, then panic when the fire goes out. So tell me, do you keep chasing sparks instead of building an engine? The truth is, motivation isn't supposed to last. Motivation is like the countdown before a rocket launch, but the rocket doesn't stay in countdown forever. Eventually it has to move, and discipline is the movement after the hype disappears. Real life example. You say, I'll start eating healthy, but then someone brings snacks to work. You're stressed, you're tired, and suddenly your motivation collapses. Not because you're weak, but because you built the habit on emotion instead of structure. Motivation dies because most people never create a system. They have goals, they have dreams, they have inspiration, but they don't have rules, and without rules, everything becomes negotiable, and negotiation is where consistency goes to die. Let me ask you something directly. What do you do when motivation disappears? Do you quit, do you restart, or do you keep going anyway? Comment your honest answer, because this is the difference between average and unbreakable. The people who look disciplined aren't superhuman. They just remove the daily debate. They don't ask, should I do it today? They ask, how well will I do it today? And that mindset changes everything. Motivation dies fast, but discipline grows slowly. Discipline is built through boring repetition, through showing up when nobody claps, through doing the work when it feels pointless. And that is why discipline always outlives motivation. So the real question isn't, how do I stay motivated? The real question is, how do I build a life where motivation is optional? And I want you to write in the comments, what system could you build starting tomorrow? Most people fail because they keep waiting to feel ready, but readiness is a myth, motivation is temporary, and action is the only thing that creates change. So stop waiting for the feeling and start becoming the person who moves without it. If this video hit you, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next video on the screen. And before you go, comment one habit you will stop restarting and finally make permanent, because your future self deserves more than another reset.